Hey everybody, hope everybody's doing good. If you read the title of the video, you know that today we're going to be looking at the guts of an ICF wall. So ICF stands for insulated concrete form, and in layman's terms what it is it's 2.5 inches of foam with an 8-inch void in the middle that is for rebar and 8 inches of concrete and any stiffeners you put in there. And then on the other side is another 2.5 inches of foam. Now, depending on the ICF block, the thicknesses of the foam could vary. Some might be a little thinner, some might be a little thicker, and then the void goes all different depths. I think they go like 4 inches to 12 inches, maybe even bigger. Well, the ones I have are 8-inch. So you had 2.5 inches of foam, 8 inches of concrete, 2.5 inches of foam. And these black things here that we're looking at, these are what they call the studs, or where you fasten your interior and exterior walls to. And what they do is they serve a couple purposes. One, where you can see where these little bands are here, that of the ones I've already removed. It goes here and it goes all the way through the block, through the concrete, it goes to the other side, and then there's another one just like this that mimics it. And whenever you're pouring your concrete, that's what keeps it from blowing out side to side. So it holds it together. And then when you're done pouring, it becomes your studs where you fasten your walls to. Now, a couple things that you can notice from these studs or these fastener points is that down here on the bottom, they don't align. So the reason for that is what you're looking at is right along here is my cold pour seam. So down below it is the basement pour, and then up above it is my second story pour. And the reason it's like that is because I adjusted the blocks a little bit. It's fine to do that. It is a little bit pain for like a drywaller if they don't know that you did that, because they're going to start missing all their screws as they get to the bottom. But I did take note of that, and I made marks on the floor, and I also took mental notes, took pictures, and you can see it on the blocks. They mark it on the blocks where the studs are. So as long as you know it's there, it's not a big problem. Second thing you notice is there's gaps in between each set of blocks. So each block is about 16 inches thick. And in between there's a little gap. So you kind of have to pay attention to that when you're putting in your fasteners as well, because if you hit this spot right here or here, you're not going to hit anything and it's not going to fasten. That's a little bit annoying, I'm not going to lie, but it's not a big deal once you get used to it. So we're looking mostly at concrete here. Like I said, I've already taken out most of the studs. Most of the foam has been chiseled off. I got a little bit more work to do there. The cold pour seam, the reason why it's discolored is because I've been chiseling it off. So what you get in between the blocks is you kind of get these ledges, if you can see that there, where it's just a little protrusion of concrete that sticks out. You might get it in a corner. Here's where the corner of 2 blocks were. Like if there's a little bit of foam missing in the corner, it's going to become concrete when you pour it. Now, I was pleasantly surprised when I did this. I didn't see any honeycombing. Now, this stuff in here, this discoloration, that's not honeycombing. That's where I was hitting it with the hammer and with the crowbar to knock off the foam and the studs. Right here, though, is a little bit of honeycombing. And what this actually is when you're pouring your wall, you kind of go around in circles, and because you can't pour it all the way up to the ceiling at one time or all the way to the top of the wall at one time. So this is probably where my first pour was, somewhere along in here. And then this is where my second round was, up here. And when you go around, when you're vibrating the walls, it just didn't quite get vibrated enough right there. That's nothing to worry about. What you don't want to see is large areas of honeycombing, and you definitely don't want to see any voids where you can see through to the other side of the foam. Now, I have seen some videos and pictures of stuff like that. Now that's a problem because it's a structural problem, let alone that you're losing a lot of R value because you have a hole in your wall, basically. Usually in your straightaways, you don't have that problem if you pay attention to what you're doing. And usually the pumpers, the ones that run the pump trucks with the concrete, they usually have quite a bit of knowledge on how high you should fill it, how fast you should go, what the mix should look like. So usually it's a combination of the person not pouring and the person not pumping, knowing what they're doing to get really bad voids. Usually where you will see a void, or the biggest place to look out for, is under a window, because as you're pouring, it kind of goes like this on this side and like this on this side, and you end up with a void right here. And how you counteract that is you have a buck underneath of here that's made out of pressure treated wood, And what I did was I just drilled I can't remember if it was I think it was a 4 or 6 inch hole with a hole saw. And then you can actually look down in there. So when you're done pouring, you can look and see how it's settled, and then you can add more concrete if it's needed, so you don't have a void under your windows. And then you just take that wood plug, put a screw in it, flip it upside down, and just stick it back in there so that you have something to attach your window frame into. Now, these studs are pretty strong. And I don't know if you can see this right here. That's where a screw was. So I can't remember the exact specs on it. I want to say it's like you can hold 250 pounds per screw. There's usually about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of foam in front of this. You just put your fastener through it. It attaches into that, and it's pretty strong. It loses some of its strength when you take all the foam away from around it, because, you know, that kind of gives it some side-to-side support. But it is connected by 2 bands that are that thick that go all the way through the concrete. That's actually connected into the rebar and the stiffeners. There's vertical rebar, there's horizontal rebar, that all gets connected in there. So it's pretty strong when you consider it all tied together. So like I said, I'm pretty pleasantly pleased with what I'm seeing. I don't see a bunch of, you know, voids or honeycombing. This orange right here is where the outlet used to be for the refrigerator. Now, the reason why I'm doing this, you may be wondering, why are you even doing this? Why are you stripping your wall back? Well, my wife wants to get the largest possible refrigerator that you can fit in this opening. I mean, who doesn't? I mean, everybody needs more storage space, especially if you have children. And anybody that shopped for refrigerators knows that they have counter depth, and then they have these gigantic ones that when you put them in a counter depth opening in your cabinets, they stick out really far. So what I recommended, or I suggested to her, is like, hey, you know, I'll take the time, I'll chisel back to the concrete. Now, if people are worried like, oh my gosh, you're losing all your insulation. Yes and no. I'm losing 2.5 inches of insulation, but this here is my thermal mass. And what I mean is this concrete goes all around my house. It's just as much a part of my insulation system as the insulation. All the insulation does on the outside is slows down the transfer back and forth. So if it's really cold outside, it has to go through the outside foam, cool down all this thermal mass, and then it has to radiate through the foam before it'll be able to get to my house. So this, I wish I had my thermal gun, but I bet this concrete, like, it is not cold to the touch, it's warm. And it's probably the same temperature or whatever I got my house in here. And it was the same when I ripped it off. It's not just that it did that overnight or anything like that. It was like that when I ripped it off. And another interesting tidbit about ICF is, like, for instance, in my garage, I have no heating in there, I have no cooling in there, and I have a door that blocks the airflow between it, and it's sealed. And you would think, oh, when it gets cold outside, I bet that's the coldest room in the house. Well, no, not really, actually, because the heat in my house is going to radiate into this concrete, into this thermal mass. It bridges all the way into the garage, and then it radiates out into the garage. So the temperature throughout my whole house usually stays within 1 to 2 degrees. Whether or not it has a heating or cooling system in it or not, whether or not it has airflow in it, it's kind of like magic. I don't quite understand it completely, like how it works so well. Like, you would think there'd be more of a lag, but it works pretty good. So my theory is, refrigerator is basically a heat pump. It takes the heat out of the box that's called the refrigerator, and it just dumps it out either to the floor or to the back wall. And kind of my theory is in the summertime, this will be a positive because all the heat's just going to dump out. It's probably going to want to absorb right into this concrete wall and not go into the room, so it wouldn't take as much cooling. In the winter time, I might lose a little bit of efficiency because you wouldn't mind having a little extra heat dumped into the room when it's taken out of the refrigerator. But I don't know that we're talking about large amounts of energy here, so I don't think that's a big problem. So anyways, that's what we're looking at. This is an ICF wall, 8 inches of concrete. You got your little studs every 6 inches. They go all the way through. By the time you do it, you put your rebar in, your vertical and your horizontal rebar, your stiffeners, you tie it all together. It's a pretty strong system, very energy efficient. My electric bill, since I've been working in here and got my air system hooked up through the summer, I don't think I had an electric bill over $90. And I don't have what I consider a small house. I have a house that I'm living in now, a double wide, that is approximately 1/3 the size of this. and my electricity bill on my double wide is about 3 times the amount of this house. So very energy efficient, very robust. Just got to get used to these little studs and working with them. But if anybody's got any questions, ask below. I think I've talked long enough. And with that, hope everyone has a great day and good luck on your adventures.